In this subsection, we continue to have a look at the dangers posed by a vehicle exiting from a side road. In this video, particularly at the lack of view, visibility, or obscurity of one vehicle from another. In the animation, we have a line of parked vehicles, and so this blocks the view of each driver's visibility of the other vehicle. This is just one typical scenario. We cover a number of different scenarios in each of the real-life clips to follow, but not all of them. So as you go through the montage section at the end of the instructional videos, see if you can identify for yourself some of the other scenarios that aren't covered in these instructional videos. Real-life clip to demonstrate the animation. We have a line of parked vehicles on the side of the road, and so this somewhat blocks the view or the visibility of any vehicles exiting from a side road. In this real-life clip, we have a driver waiting to exit from the side road, an oncoming vehicle. The driver waits for the vehicle to pass. Then we have another vehicle that's slowing down and indicating to turn into the side road. The driver of the vehicle that's wanting to exit from the side road notices that this driver is going to be turning in, so thinks it's clear to go because he doesn't see any other vehicles behind this vehicle. The vehicle that is behind the vehicle is perfectly positioned to be just out of sight or visibility to the driver of this vehicle, and vice versa. So he cannot clearly see the vehicle exiting from the side road. Both think it's clear to go, and there's a bit of a collision. So be careful of that scenario. It's quite typical and common. So whether you be the driver exiting from the side road, just be patient if there is a vehicle turning into the side road. Make sure that there are no other vehicles behind it before progressing across the road. And likewise, if you were the driver coming down the main lane, a vehicle ahead of you is indicating to turn into a side road, make sure you can see beyond this vehicle if there are any other vehicles waiting to exit from the side road. This one's quite evident. We have piles of snow on the side of the road here, so this quite easily blocks any vehicles wanting to exit from the side road. And so something even as large as a van was quite hidden. The object that's blocking the view could be just about anything on the side of the road. In this case, it's a pile of snow, but this could be a truck that's parked on the side of the road, could be vegetation, could be a signboard or a billboard that now blocks the visibility or the view of each driver from the other. And so be careful of anything that serves as an obstruction on the side of the road. In this real-life clip, we've got a fairly narrow lane, and as we advance the video, you'll see that there's a building that's right on the corner or the side of the road, and just opposite that is a fence. So as the driver is now progressing down the road, his angle of vision or view or visibility is very limited. And so if you're the driver in a situation such as this, just proceed with caution, knowing that you cannot really see much in the way of your angle of view. In this real-life clip, we have the driver wanting to exit from a side road, and there's a vehicle that's parked on the side of the road. Now it's a van, so the driver cannot see through the glass of the windows in order to see if there are any oncoming vehicles. No doubt it's a panel van, and so the visibility is blocked. So the driver cannot really see any oncoming vehicles. So in a situation such as this, the best thing to do is just to edge out very slowly into the road. Now, the driver is more than likely sitting in the left side of the vehicle, so his angle of view down the road is even more limited or obscured than had it been a right-hand drive where the driver was now sitting on the right side of the vehicle, then he'd have more of an angle to be able to see any oncoming vehicles. So in a case such as this, just edge the front of your vehicle very slowly out into the lane, because then that allows any oncoming traffic to take note that there's a vehicle edging out or encroaching slowly into the main lane. And so this allows them the time then to be able to detour around your vehicle. But as you edge closer, do so until you can clearly see any oncoming vehicles down the side of the road. In this case, the driver didn't do that, proceeded too quickly, and landed up with a collision. This is also a typical suburban area scene, and where you've got a lot of vehicles, once again, parked on the side of the road and concealed driveways exiting from the various houses. Be very careful as you're driving along, because once again, your view would be obstructed or limited of any vehicles now exiting from a driveway, as is the case here. And so you want to travel down a road such as this a lot slower, and always anticipating at any moment from either side of the road a vehicle to be exiting. What I want to point out in this real life clip are these two vehicles on the far side. So what we have is a driver being somewhat impatient while this driver is waiting for oncoming vehicles and a break in the traffic. The driver is too impatient to wait behind this vehicle, comes onto the far side of this vehicle, so the far side relative to these oncoming vehicles. And because of that, his view is now restricted. He cannot see past this vehicle in order to detect these oncoming vehicles. And likewise, the oncoming vehicles in the main lane may not expect that there's going to be another vehicle on the far side suddenly shooting out into the main lane. That's exactly what takes place, and a collision occurs. So never do that. Rather be patient. It's going to save you a lot more time in the long run, because you can imagine the time now for this driver to go through the whole insurance process, have his car repaired, instead of just waiting those few seconds behind this particular driver. Here we have vehicles obscured from each other. The driver of this vehicle cannot see this oncoming vehicle because of these passing vehicles. So he had waited patiently for the vehicles to pass. Now thinks it's clear because his visibility is obscured of the oncoming vehicle from the far side. So just be careful when you've got a line of vehicles that are passing you, that you can see clearly beyond that line of vehicles. So there's enough of a break between these vehicles to see if there's any oncoming traffic. In this specific clip, where the obscurity comes from is that this road actually has a slight curve or bend to it. And because of that, the vehicle traveling down the lane over here is not as visible to any vehicles wanting to exit from the side road. And because of that, especially if the vehicle is coming down at speed, really doesn't have the time to be able to respond to such oncoming traffic. And that's what takes place here as well. Here the obscurity is posed by the hill or the rise in elevation of the road. So we've covered this also a couple of times in a few previous videos, but be cautious where you've got a slight hill such as we see over here, because the visibility of yourself as the driver would not be visible from any vehicles on the other side of the hill wanting to exit into the main lane. and likewise you can't see until maybe the last moment any vehicles wanting to exit into the side road. The driver then of this vehicle that landed up in a collision could have done two things. Firstly, you noticed he was traveling at quite a speed. So where you've got a rise, such as we've seen now in this clip, rather to travel slower, also to be more cautious in realizing that there probably oncoming vehicles wanting to cross over the lane. So for him, it would have been safer to actually travel in the lane that the camera was in, because this would have afforded him a bit of a buffer zone, both from that side of the road as well as from this side of the road. So just a few pointers there that we can take note of if we in a situation similar to this, or we have a terrain very similar to this in the area that we normally travel in. Yeah, we've got a bit of a similar situation to what we had just a few clips back, excepting that this is not a vehicle that's parked on the side of the road. This is a line of vehicles that's actually moving down this lane. Obviously, the traffic's somewhat packed, and so they're moving slowly. The driver rightly has actually just waited, not blocked the exit of the side road, but waiting for any traffic that's ahead of him to move on before progressing further. So there is a bit of a break in the traffic. The problem is that the driver exiting the side road, such as the camera is, it's very difficult for him now to see any vehicles that are coming down this side of the road, because no doubt to his right, there's that whole line of other vehicles that's blocking his visibility to the right. And so it's now hard for him to be able to try and encroach into that lane in order to turn left. So what you can do in a situation such as this, I mentioned early on, a couple of clips back, to encroach slowly across the lane. But what you can also do where you've got a driver of a vehicle such as this waiting in order to progress further is to try and catch this driver's attention and for him to notify you if it's clear to go or whether he can see any oncoming traffic. So that's what I normally do. I try and get hold of the attention of the driver and by hand signals try and indicate to him, please to show me whether it's clear or I can go ahead. And then you just have to trust the driver. This is the last clip that we'll have a look at. Now notice this vehicle exiting from the side of the road, but take particular note of where this vehicle is positioned. So it's a little bit further back from the corner, and because of that, the driver's view or angle of any oncoming traffic down that lane is somewhat restricted. So the further back the driver is, and the closer the driver is to the corner, the greater that angle is in order to be restricted as far as their view or their visibility of the oncoming traffic is concerned. So in other words, closer to the corner, further back, that angle is now very much restricted. Whereas if the driver was further from the corner and closer to the corner, then there'll be more of an angle that the driver can have a look down the road to see any oncoming traffic. Now this driver doesn't do that, and so just lunges ahead, progresses forward, and rides directly into the path of an oncoming truck. Right, so just to repeat the point, where your visibility is somewhat limited, as is the case here, we've got a fence and we've got vegetation, then rather to try and move as far forward as you can, also bearing in mind that there might be vehicles wanting to come down and turning into the side road, so we don't want to restrict them in any ways. So the further we are from the corner and the closer we are to the road itself. So if the driver was positioned more or less in that region there, they'd be able to see a lot better down the road for any oncoming traffic. But because the driver was in the position that he or she's in, it's difficult for them to see now any oncoming vehicles. Please like, subscribe, and get notified.